is a Hugo Award-winning writer whose body of work includes, but absolutely not limited to, the Black Collar Trilogy, the Cobra series, the Dragonback series, and a very undervalued Star Wars miniseries for Marvel Comics. Among Star Wars fandom, he is renowned as the author of the 1991's Heir to the Empire, which created the breakout character of Admiral Thrawn, a character he has revisited as served as advisor for Lucasfilm as the character's been brought to animation and live action. Today he joins us to discuss these works and more. Please welcome Zahn.
And we're 4 minutes early, so we probably shouldn't start. But I'll tell you the secret of life: those people come in on time will have missed it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you go ahead and do that, because after that last panel, I do need to use the privy since we have 4 minutes. So
we're going to talk about him.
Right? Yes, absolutely. Right. Trust me, I'm sure they got a lot of opinions about this weekend.
The Candyman.
Just remember, I'm a friend of Davis, but then again, so is everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to mostly, I think he's going to have some spiel, and then we're going to move to a Q&A. I don't know if there's a floating microphone. No, I don't think so. So, all right.
Yeah, he's got a mic.
He does.
Has he got a mic to move on? Okay, good. I'll see. Yeah. When we get to the Q&A, speak slowly and distinctly, because the echoes in these things make it very hard for me to hear. The fact that I got old ears does not help things at all. So, I don't know, whether we want to talk about chords.
There you go. So he did the call.
On the top of your head, too.
Yes.
Nice.
The power behind the throne and the one
Nah,
who's
that's
going to put photos up on Facebook.
That's his technical advisor.
We made an agreement early on. I handle all the letters, writing stuff. She handles pictures and numbers, money stuff, and there are more numbers than there are letters right out of it. Let's see. This is, we were here in Jacksonville 2 years ago. Thank you for the applause. Training her right. Our son lived in Tampa for about 15 years, so we came down to Tampa for several times for conventions there, and a couple of major ones with small ones. Okay, so everybody agrees. Says, how many agree? Raise your hands. Yeah, okay.
Patty's Zahn's in.
You're not, hey, you recorded it all. my spy.
You got the editing program I downloaded, right?
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, I think we're ready to go now.
Groovy. Welcome to Jacksonville.
Thank you.
Have you enjoyed your time?
Yeah, we got in before the thunderstorm started. We haven't gotten rain down, so we're good.
Okay, all right. You actually, besides the rain last night, you took a good weekend to visit us. This is those dangerous weekends where I warn the tourists, no, you don't want to move here. 99 degrees and then 89% humidity. Avoid it all costs. What we're going to do is just get a little timeline, background, and talk about some of your Star Wars work. And so, my first question always, with a solo artist yourself, is what drew you to writing?
I watched a bad TV show. The episode ended, and I said, I could write a better story than that. So,
Which show was it?
It was The Invisible Man with David McCallum.
Man from
I
Uncle.
loved him as Ilya Kuryakin and as Ducky, but you gotta give the guy something to work with, and they didn't.
I'm a Colditz fan myself.
But over the next couple of weeks, I was in grad school. My advisor was out of town a lot. My project wasn't working, and I was going to work for it. So over the next couple of weeks, I wrote a story, which was, in retrospect, really pretty terrible. But it showed me that writing was fun, so I kept at that for a few years. This is 1975 I started. And in 1978, sold my first story to Analog Magazine. In 79, July, I sold my second story to Analog, and thinking, maybe when I get my doctorate, maybe I would take a year off and write full time. had sold my second story, I also learned that my advisor had died overnight of a heart attack, leaving me again with a project that was not working and never was going to work. It was a mathematical thing, and one of the other professors showed me the flaw in the reasoning of everything. So they offered me new professor, new project, work another couple of years, 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you could probably get your doctorate. I tried it for a semester, discovered I could not write and do physics, new physics at the same time. I had time but not enough mental energy. So in December of 79, Anna and I decided, let's try that 1 year thing, see if we can make a go of this. Bear in mind, we've been married a grand total of 4 months at this point. Her parents were thrilled by this news. They did come around, but they, wait a minute, he's going to start writing instead of doing physics.
How exciting.
Did a year, planned a aim for $1,000 gross income. If I couldn't get that much in a year, this wasn't going to work. By September, I had $366 and was starting to look at the want ads. And then, because I was writing stories for magazines, the delay kicked in. And the last quarter of that year, I was selling stories, wound up with $2,000 in sales, decided we'd keep going. So far, it seems to be working.
Great.
And this was the 70s, $2,000. So, just that revelation, this was a good chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, a car was like $4,000, so.
We also, by the way, started writing professionally in 1980, started making a living in 1984. So if you're thinking about starting out, most people cannot afford to give up the day job. We were fortunate, we had an inexpensive place to live. Anna had enough of a job, and we both brought savings into the marriage. So we were able to coast for enough with what I was making. But yeah, it took a while to start actually making a living at this. But again, 84, which is not bad.
What was that project that you felt like you were truly in it with both feet, and it would became your actual paid occupation? Like what point? Like you were still pushing along, you were doing here and there.
Yeah.
At what point do you feel like you fully crossed over to the memory and now I'm past the point where
I quit the Department of Physics at the University of Illinois in December of 79.
At that moment,
That was the moment, yeah.
There was no going back.
Theoretically, I suppose I could have gone back, but no, I couldn't do both, and I was having more fun writing. And I was also felt like I was doing better at writing than I was in physics. I like to think the fields of writing and physics both benefited from my decision. I kind of ended up teaching, which is enjoyable as well, but I think I'm much more satisfied. It's much more exciting and satisfying writing than anything else. Every author, someplace in their career, usually 2 or 3 or 4 times, thinks their career is over. I've hit a quiet spot. I can't think of any new stories. The publishers aren't interested in me. And in one of those, a few years ago, it looked like it might be, that's the end of it. And I sat down and I started to think, okay, what would I like to do? What else would I like to do if writing is over? There isn't anything. There are things I certainly will do to feed my family. I would be a waiter, I could do this, I could do that. But there's nothing I wanted to do. So, okay, let's see what happens. And then this guy, Dave Filoni, brought Thrawn into Rebels, and suddenly these kind of checked off a little bit with the writing, and people were interested again, and so far it seems again to be working. So we're going to keep going until it stops being working.
Well, since you bring up Thrawn, first of all, what was your first exposure to Star Wars? I mean, did you see it in the original run in the theaters, or?
Second night it was out in the theaters. I couldn't go the first night because I was working on a computer project for my doctorate. Went the second night, and I was hooked when that Star Destroyer came over and kept coming and kept coming. It was the first time I'd ever felt a size in a movie. scale of size. We'd seen ships like that in 2001, A Space Odyssey, but it wasn't the same. Whatever George did with that, I was hooked at that point. Okay, this guy knows what he's doing. We're going to have a good movie with it. And if I needed a second hook with that, it was in the cantina where Obi-Wan suddenly goes from being this old guy who's talking a lot and suddenly is a warrior. And those two pieces, that had me hooked on Star Wars forever. It's amusing that when I started writing full-time in 1980, I had a lot of vinyl records I would play while I was writing, and among them in the rotation were the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back soundtracks. And I distinctly remember at one point thinking, you know, if George Lucas can come out of basically nowhere and make his success, maybe I can too. With no knowledge that I'd ever actually be playing in his sandbox.
And
the Force has a sense of humor.
And how did you find yourself in that sandbox?
In 1988, Lou Aronica at Bantam Spectra sent a letter to Lucasfilm suggesting that Bantam pick up the Star Wars saga after Return of the Jedi, which is someplace George had never allowed anyone to write.
It was on moratorium.
It took a year or so for the Lucasfilm people to discuss it back and forth and decide to go ahead with this. And so in 1989, they wrote back to Lou and said, okay, find us an author, we'll talk contract. The Bantam editors got together, sat down, made up a short list of authors they thought could do Star Wars. They sent the list and samples of our writing out to Lucasfilm. They decided they liked my style best. I got a completely out-of-the-blue phone call early November from my agent saying, Tim, we've got a very interesting author. It was an understatement of at least the decade, possibly the entire century as far as I was concerned. The two kickers are that I just signed on 6 weeks earlier with Bantam. I'd left Bain Books, and Del Rey had made a bid for me. No, Tor had made a bid for me. And my agent, we discussed it, and he said, well, Tor will pay more money, but I really think Bantam would do best for you right now with the books you're proposing. And the editor who I had just done this contract for 3 books for almost didn't suggest me at that meeting because she didn't want me getting sidetracked with media stuff. I think so she put it later on. So right place, the right time, kind of shoved into the right place at the right time. And I talked to my agent for 45 minutes or an hour, told him I would give him my answer the next day. Then I went off and panicked. Because this is a chance to jumpstart my career in a way I never would have anticipated. It was also my chance to fall flat on my face in front of millions of Star Wars fans who would never, forgive me for messing up their saga. I know that seems hard to believe that Star Wars fans would do that. That was the fear. I knew I needed to capture the feel of Star Wars. Every universe has its own feel. Star Wars does not feel like Star Trek, does not feel like Firefly, for example. If I could not capture that feel, then I would not be doing Star Wars. I would be writing an adventure of a couple of guys named Han and Luke. Not the same thing. A waste of time for everybody. By the next day, I had enough idea. I can do a 300,000 words story. I can develop this into a story that long. And I still don't know if I can capture Star Wars, but I've seen all the movies, I've listened to all the music, and I'd be crazy not to try it, given this opportunity. So it appears that I'm able to capture Star Wars reasonably well for at least most people.
Gotcha.
I think we agree.
Amen.
Well, I remember that time, and that was Star Wars. I will not say people have said, "Oh, Star Wars is dead." Like, no, that's not true at all. It was kind of spinning its wheels in the mud because George said, "Oh, 1999," then prequels or whatever, and a lot of us thought we'd be dead before that. And there were comics. Everybody's kind of running around, but the fact that you were given license to go beyond Jedi. And just got everybody excited about Star Wars again in a way that hadn't had in a while, and it really reignited that pilot light, and it hit the world by storm. And
yeah, everybody else who had been writing Star Wars books or comics was always between the movies, which meant that by definition you can't have all the movie characters in it because some of them haven't met each other yet. Because I was going after Jedi, it meant that they told me I could use anybody who had not been killed in the movies, and 3 to 5 years after Jedi, and so yeah, I had the entire cast to play with, and that made it more challenging, but a lot more fun. I can bring in Wedge. I can invent Rogue Squadron, so I can put Wedge anywhere I need him. I can have Han, Luke, and Leia. I can have twins on the way. Let's do this.
yeah, no. And again, one thing I really love is that everything felt right. Everything felt like natural to those characters. I did not think there was anything like, I don't think it would be a hard turn like that, or it really felt like almost a real-time expansion when we last visited them.
And that was the goal. Okay, take the characters we got at the end of Jedi, age them 5 years. Do the politics, the military, 5 years worth, and how will these people be now? And that was always the goal with that. And yeah, that was something I tried to do.
And it works very well as a science fiction military comic. Because again, with the introduction of Thrawn, and again, that even as a kid, I knew this Death Star is blown up, the Emperor is gone, but the organization is still out there. And yes, there'll be disarray, and Moffs will be like, I'm the new Emperor. No, I am. And at least it made sense that there had to be at least one person like Thrawn. There had to be at least one, and I don't know if the metaphor is elegant or not. I said it had to be a Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah, there had to be someone who was really good at their job and maybe not totally good at the whole fact of the matter is and so how did Thrawn come about since he was the breakout character, and do you have to kind of get him approved?
Well, everything gets approved by Lucas.
Well, yeah, I know everything's a white glove treatment on everything.
Right. When I first was offered the books, I knew, among other things, I wanted to do Star Wars, but not what George had already done. So that meant no Death Star, no super weapon, no Vader type, no Emperor type. Okay, who could be the villain in this? Well, Palpatine manipulates. Vader scares the socks off people. A more dangerous enemy is someone who leads by loyalty. If you inspire loyalty in the troops, they will fight for you whether you're watching them or not, because they trust you. Okay, take a step back. What kind of leader are the troops loyal to? Tactical, strategic genius, so you know you're likely to win whatever battle you're put into. Does not get ego involved in the battles, because you see that all through history. I am going to win this battle no matter how many thousands of troops I have to spend to do it. None of that. You see you're losing, get everybody out, pick another time and place. Take suggestions from subordinates. I've been reading a little bit about Joseph Fouché and his interactions with Napoleon. Napoleon does not want anybody to give him suggestions. He wants rubber stamp in everything he wants to do. That is a very bad weakness in leaders. Thrawn does not have that. He will take suggestions. A bunch of things like that. And then finally, since the Emperor didn't seem to have any non-humans in his upper echelons, make him non-human, because if he gets to be one of the 12 Grand Admirals, he must be extraordinarily special. And that was where Thrawn came from. Of course, then I had to show that he was intelligent and clever and militarily strategic and all that. So you can't just say this guy is, you got to show it.
And I think he did it fantastically, because I'm sure you've noticed this in the past, most of our audiences, that there's two types that write smart characters. One that just say that character is smart, and there's really no narrative support for it. It's just they walk in and they do things, and it's like magic. And then there's demonstrated in the narrative and everything else, where it's like a moment, it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, that's a great idea, and everything else. So again, I just thought you would just put so much into that character, and it really is out of what eventually came known as the expanded universe. That was the one thing too. What was it like then?
One comment first. My favorite movie example of show don't tell is Casablanca. You hear all the way through the movie how Victor Laszlo is a danger to the Nazis. And you hear him talking about it, And then comes a scene where the Germans are singing in Rick's Cafe, and just by having the band play Marseille and everybody joins in, we show there are more of us than you've done nothing seditious, nothing illegal, nothing they can grab him for, but he inspires people and knows how to do it. And that's what makes him dangerous, and that is shown in the movie. So that's an excellent example of this is how you do it, guys. Show why this person is smart or clever or dangerous. Don't just say it.
Yes, absolutely. Did the trilogy, the character broke out, and again, expanded universe, and then expanded universe was concluded. When did you get the overture of we want to bring Thrawn into this new universe? Basically, in comic terms, you created the Earth 1 Thrawn, and now we're doing the Earth 2 Thrawn, and what was that like?
That was 2015. 2015, we had a convention, I think that was Salt Lake, and Pablo Hidalgo from Lucasfilm had been one of the guests, and we've known Pablo since his days at West End Games. And a bunch of us were having dinner, and a couple of us said, we're available if you want more Star Wars books. And Pablo said, which is Lucasfilm shorthand for, we're not going to talk about that, because I have no authority to talk about that. A month or so later, got a email from somebody at Lucasfilm saying, we'd like you to come out and talk about Star Wars with us. Okay, sure, I want to talk about Star Wars. Looked at schedules, it looked like November would be the first time we could all get together. My schedule was kind of busy at the time. So over the next month or so, we're getting emails back and forth, and it's things like, we've been talking to Dave Filoni. Okay, we've blocked an hour and a half for this. Dave Filoni is in the middle of Rebels. He does not have an hour and a half to just talk about Star Wars, so what's going on? And then I land in San Francisco, and while I'm getting arranged to come in and have a meeting at 1 o'clock. And as I'm getting my luggage, I check my email one more time. Oh, and there may be a film crew there. Is that okay? Oh, going to be a film crew at our meeting. Okay, this is getting interesting. Sure, I'll film crew there. Get to the meeting, the book editor at Lucasfilm, Jen Heddle, took me to lunch at the commissary. I was too nervous to eat much of anything. I don't know what's going on. We get to the conference room. I'm early. Down here, okay, conference table. This is the head of the table. This is where the water and the snackage is. So, okay, I pick a seat down here, wait for everybody to come in. So we start people dribbling in. Film crew comes in. They're set up aiming at this part of the table. Everybody is coming in one by one, and it's always, hi, I'm so-and-so, big fan. Okay, about the third time of those, okay, I'm not in trouble. They didn't call me all the way out here to yell at me. And then Pablo's in, Leland Shee comes in, who's known almost as long as Pablo, keeper of the holocron, photographic memory for everything Star Wars. And we say hi, and he says, here, come over, sit up here. At the, kind of where the film crew is pointing. I say, Leland, do you know what's going on? He says, oh yeah. Thanks for you, and someday I'll know something you want to know, and I won't tell you either. So finally, Dave Filoni and I forget her name, one of the other, the top producer, Rebels, comes in, they sit down at the head of the table, then they drop the bomb on me. Thrawn is going to be the major villain in season 3 and probably season 4 of Rebels. Oh, and we'd like to write into their book about him. So after I think I said something like the internet is going to melt.
You were right.
They took me down to the bullpen area. I got to meet several of the people who were working on Rebels. And then a couple of us went upstairs and we talked about the book they wanted me to write, the backstory to Thrawn, backstory to season 3 of Rebels, his rise through the ranks of Grand Admiral and such. We also discussed bringing Corinda Price's backstory to how she became governor of Lafar. We decided all this. I headed off a couple days later, actually, to Southern California to talk with the Blizzard people about a StarCraft book they wanted me to do. And then we had to ban for 8 months because sworn to secrecy. I told my wife and son, obviously, because they need to know what's going on. But we can't tell anybody else. So I became very adept at not answering the question I've been asked. The question would often be, are you going to write more books for Star Wars? And the answer, which to be fair was always the answer after the sale to Disney, the answer is, if they want me to write more Star Wars books, they know where to find me. Which is absolutely true and is not an answer that nobody knows. So, and we'd consider a career in politics if this writing thing goes. But that was the start of then Thrawn's revival now in Rebels, and the second kick to my career as I start doing more of that, and Thrawn becomes much better known than he ever has been before. And now with Ahsoka and the live action, expecting yet another bump in Thrawn's popularity, and hopefully that more looks good. So that may be more answer than you had question, but that's
No. This is what should we know about your non-Star Wars works?
I got it.
You got it, yeah. I think anything particular right now you'd like to
Right now, while I wait for the story to get free and we can talk Star Wars, I'm working on a series. I had a standalone book called The Icarus Hunt back in the early 2000s, it was about 20-25 years ago. Always wanted to revisit that universe, could never come up with a storyline. Well, everything shut down for COVID, which meant no conventions, which meant I have time to do another book, not traveling. I thought, maybe I can revisit this. I sent my agent a proposal. He said, it's very hard to sell a sequel to a 20-year-old book unless it was fantastically popular. So he suggests what I do what one of his other clients did, same universe, but pick new protagonists. So I came up with new protagonists for this, found a way to put the original characters back in. Okay, I got this book. We sold it to Bain. I've got another idea, I've got another, and it's winding up as a 6-book series. I'm in the middle of writing the last book of it. So no George R.R. Martin thing here. That is what I'm working on at the moment. I've got a couple of other projects. I have an old book has been revived, a techno thriller I wrote many years ago called Cloak. Another company has bought it. We've changed the name so we don't run foul of Amazon's algorithm. It's called Cloak Deception. I'll be talking about that a little bit more online as we get closer to the May update. But just the elevator pitch on that one is a tactical nuclear weapon is stolen from an Indian research facility. At the same time in California, the 3 scientists who invented the world's first cloak of invisibility are murdered, and their 4 sample cloaks are stolen. The perpetrators are planning an assassination using the cloaks on the nuke. Nobody knows the 2 incidents are connected. They got 10 days to stop it. So that's the elevator pitch. I'll be running that by people again.
So this goes all the way back to that episode of Invisible Man with David McCallum. You have finally
closure.
Yes. You're done. You're free. One quick note about this. I mentioned I'm a fan of your Star-Lord miniseries, and that was a very curious time at Marvel because they had a whole bunch of things going on, and was that did they reach out to you, or because I know that was one of those ancillary characters where like, oh, we need to do something with Star-Lord, and several other characters they have keep it in print to maintain the trademark copyright. So I guess they were just fishing around.
I guess you're fishing, yeah. Somebody, I forget his name, he contacted me. This is after the Thrawn trilogy released Heir to the Empire, so I was suddenly on everybody's radar. And he contacted me about Star-Lord, sent me some of the comics. He thought, well, maybe we can do a Star-Lord had met his father at the end of the last series, and they were saying, well, maybe you can do adventures of him, Star-Lord and his dad. And I looked at it and said, there's kind of closure here. It's not going to work very well. How about instead somebody finds Star-Lord's ship and uniform, and Star-Lord himself is missing, and this guy is forced for various reasons to take over the Star-Lord role. Now, in those information. Starlight could fly. He had an element gun that would shoot air, fire, water, or what's the last one? Air, fire, water. Both.
Stones.
Yeah, earth or fire.
But it was something
Yeah.
different effect, yeah. Like a very limited Green Lantern.
Yeah, he had all sorts of, and had some powers. He could, he'd understand. He understood all languages, things like that. So, someplace between Green Lantern and Doctor Who, I guess, someplace like that. So I wrote a 3-book story with this new guy taking over Star-Lord, and the idea was I would continue this and eventually find out that Peter Quill, actual Star-Lord, has left for a reason, and he's kind of manipulating events from the shadows because there's something that needs to be done. He couldn't do it as Star-Lord, so we'll get somebody else to take over, and I will handle this, and they would meet eventually and work out the climax of the saga. I wrote another 3-parter, and they canceled the whole thing. So they've got a 3-part Star-Lord sitting for someplace. They paid for it, so they own it. But it never saw the light of day. Of course, they changed the character entirely. I really like that movie. Those movies.
Yeah, no,
so
it's not
bad.
And this goes with superhero comics. You've got to get used to interpretations and movie synergy and things like that. So just part of our.
So anyway, that was my sojourn in Star-Lord. It was a lot of fun. I think I had some good ideas for the second series. If they hadn't paid for them, I would be cannibalizing it for parts at this point. But yeah, that's technically.
Well, we can nudge somebody at my editorial and be like, look at the files. Just look up Zahn. You'll find something.
Yeah.
Me too. So, before I jump into it real quick, this usually comes with literary panels. So, what's your quickest and best advice you can give to anyone who wants to pursue writing?
Keep writing. That is the big one. It's a lot more work than most people realize when they start, and a lot of people give up. And no one has ever come to you and say, a beginning writer, we want to buy the story, the book, you haven't written it. I did get that, but that's different. But yeah, a lot of people quit. You've got to keep at it, keep reading so you see what you like in other people's styles, see what you don't like in other people's styles. Work on developing your own voice, how you write these things. You will find there are certain things that are really hard to do, like settings, description, dialogue. I was always afraid of dialogue early on because I was never very good at it. Now I look at, 3 pages of dialogue coming up, I can do that before lunch because I worked through how to do it, and now I do it very easily. So you've got to get through those rough spots. I have no idea how to market your story anymore because my experience of that is 35 years old, and the landscape has changed completely. But the key is you've got to keep writing so you've got something then to sell, to put out there for people.
Well said. Thank you for indulging my capricious curiosity. I'd like to take some questions from our audience, and I'll just go and do hands. We'll do the lovely cosplay here, and we'll take you, and then we'll take you. Hey, what's your name?
Nicole.
Nicole.
I was wondering how you developed the character of Eli Manto. I feel like the character just didn't have a lot of respect from people, but Thrawn always respected him.
Sorry.
How did you develop the character of Eli Manto?
How I developed Eli. Yeah, again, the reverb in here is tricky for my ears. I wanted somebody, people suggested, well, we're going to go back in time. Why don't we put Captain Pelion in as a supporting character since we've already known him? And I said, well, the dynamic is going to be way different no matter who I put in. Let's put somebody new in. And I've seen people just, this is what I want to do with my life. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Eli was going to be I know what I want to do with my life. And Thrawn is looking at him and seeing his strengths and saying, you're better than that. But I have to teach you how to recognize that you're better than that. So Eli it's as much almost a coming of age type of thing, certainly a coming of to understand myself type of thing. I want to do this. This is my career. This guy's going to be in the way. This guy's not so bad. This guy's doing good stuff. This guy is really good at work. I'm glad I'm working with him type of character. So that was how Eli was going to start. Not evil, not disliking, just this is my goal. And Thrawn realizes you're wrong. And I'm going to show you why.
Yeah. You're better than it. It should be.
You're better than that. You've got strengths you perhaps don't recognize. And a lot of people have
I'll
those
blow
strengths.
it, of course, right?
A lot of people have strengths they don't recognize. And it's good to have family or friends who can kind of nurture them along that direction.
Hey, what's your name?
Keith, I just wanted to thank you for Heir to the Empire, being a Star Wars fan growing up as a kid. Star Wars, Heir to the Empire, that book came at a time where I was uninterested in school, failing out in my sophomore year. That book got me reading again, not just Star Wars, but everything. So now, decades later, PhD later, that turning point was your book. So I just want to thank you. I appreciate you for.
That is one of the most rewarding parts about all of this. I set out to write stories that people would enjoy. I never anticipated that for some people it would be very important. It would be get them through a bad time in their life. It would help them find friends or a spouse who really understood them, help them through a boring deployment. These are the things that inspire them to read, inspire them to do, go beyond what they thought they could do. It is very humbling to find out that I've done this for people. Never anticipated it. And I thank you all, everybody who's been able to do that. I'm very proud of you for stepping past what I thought I was doing. Thank you.
You have it? Hi, what's your name?
I have a question about Thrawn. So we know that Thrawn doesn't really show emotion that much, and he's very guarded. So I was wondering, what would be the thing that could break Thrawn's facade? What could make him emotional?
What would make Thrawn emotional? He buries his emotions. He's not emotionless. They're under the surface. But he has a goal in life, and that's defense and protection of his people. And if emotion is not going to help that, he won't show it. He is frustrated by incompetence. He's frustrated by people who will not learn. But he's not going to let that out because that is a tool. I think he recognizes that's a tool that can be used against him. What would be a threat to his people that he could not deal with, he could not have an answer to, I think would bring out an emotion, but it would not show except in front of very close friends, possibly Eli, probably Haralani, and probably nobody else. He would hide that inside himself. But that would spur emotion. There is something here I can't fix. Which what spurs emotion to me a lot of times is I can't fix this. Very frustrating.
Great question. Thank you. On? Thank you. Okay. All right. You now spin with this. I take it. Okay. What's your name?
Hi, Andrew. I apparently had the Heir of the Empire on tape when I was like 4.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't know that until later on. So my first intro to Thrawn was in Rebels and with your new canon books. And when I got into the Heir of the Empire, you start seeing a character as a protagonist and an antagonist. I view him as a protagonist, very antagonist in the cartoons, but a protagonist in all your stories. Do you like one version better than another? Do you see them differently at all?
It depends on who's writing the history. If you were on Luke, Han, and Leia's side, he's the antagonist. If you were on the side of the Chiss, he's the protagonist. It's how you interpret what he's doing. Again, his goal is the protection of his people. If you are getting in his way of that, you're going to be run over. If you're not, he makes a good ally. So what he does, whether he's protagonist, antagonist, is largely situational. What you see him doing, and whether it serves whether it makes you happy or not, will make him the antagonist. So Thrawn is just Thrawn. I write him the way I always have. It's just that different situations, different military, political situations, he will have different responses to. And people, part of the fun of Thrawn is watching everybody else have responses to him. You've got people like Leon who are fully loyal to him. You've got people like Aralani who understand him. You've got people like his first officer in the Ascendancy. I don't like him, but I trust him. And my job is to obey him because he's my superior officer. So there's this whole mix of how people react to him. And that's a lot of the fun of writing characters, the dynamics all around happening.
Hey, what's your name? I'm Danny, and I'm kind of late to your work.
The words will wait until you're ready.
Oh no, I'm not one of those people that read your work when it came out, or I actually started reading really recently, and I really love it. And I have like two things. So I have a question, but I also wanted to let you know that your backstory about the Skywalkers in the Ascendancy literally made me cry. In a bad way, but a good way.
Yeah.
Like, it was great writing. I appreciate it. And I wanted to know what gave you the idea to have Thrawn be able to look at everybody's arc and figure them out. Because when I read that in Heir of the Empire, my mind was blown, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
That came about when I was developing the character in the Thrawn trilogy. I think I saw it as kind of like a flip side to the Jedi thing. Jedi can use the Force, nobody else understands it. Thrawn can see a culture through its art, nobody else understands it. So it was kind of a flip sort of thing. But it gives him a leg up on just understanding who he's dealing with and knowing how to modify or change tactics in order to deal with whatever I need to do here. But it was just part of this sounds like a cool idea.
Hey, what's your name?
My name's Jordan.
What you got, Jordan?
Well, I actually Mr. Van been answering my questions all weekend, so that's been great. But yeah, the Ascendancy trilogy is just so fantastic, so compelling, and I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about the spirituality of each society, because we don't really see that too much. And I was also wondering, based on what she said, because there's a couple lines in because I like you. Did not start out with Heir of the Empire. For me, I started out with the Imperial Clone trilogy, then the Legends one, then Ascendancy. Are any of the Skywalkers boys? A couple of them?
No, the Skywalkers are pretty much all girls. There may be exceptions here and there, but as far as I know, they're all girls for no particular reason except that limiting things is always interesting. You don't want to make your abilities and everything too wide, but limiting to girls seems to be a good idea. Spirituality is very important to people, but for some reason it just doesn't tend to show up in the plots I'm doing. So I don't know much about just spirituality. I also don't put a lot of sexuality in the books because normally people are getting shot at and they don't really have time to think about that. So there's aspects of humanity that I agree are very important, but when I'm writing, they just don't seem to show up as, you don't want to just throw something in for the sake of throwing it in. It has to be integral or part of the storyline, part of the characters that is going to hinge on the story. So normally that just doesn't show up for whatever reason. You had somebody back there.
Hey, what's your name?
Jeremy, I was wondering, so you were speaking a little bit ago about developing your characters. Have you ever developed a character and then afterward suddenly thought of a completely different arc that would work so much better? And if so, how did you work as far as changing that character's flow, or did you leave it the way it was?
I've had characters take on more than I realized. The guy behind you had his hand up for a long time.
You want to say? We'll say.
Oh, are they going to throw us out?
Well, we'll do it for really last. Okay, we're good.
Normally I know the character arcs before I get started. Sometimes it'll be tweaked a little bit. That's what going back through the book and editing is for. I've never gotten to the point of sending it to an editor and thinking, oh, wait a minute, this should be different. It's been done to me in the book Thrawn. Rinda Price starts out a little bit differently that Lucasfilm wanted me to change where she starts her story, her character arc. And I think mine would have worked better than theirs if I'd had another 3 years in the timeline to develop her. As it was, I agreed, yeah, okay, let's skip where I started, skip to a little further on here, and then pick up that story there. And I had to go and rewrite a bunch of her earlier scenes. But normally the characters are the way I envision them or the way they develop through the writing of the book. I've had writers say, well, the characters took over the story and took it where I didn't expect it to. Well, I'm the director, the characters do what I tell them to. They're the actors. But they can make suggestions, and sometimes those are worth picking up on. But no, I've never gotten to the end, oh, this is entirely wrong character arc, I need to change it. I'm too lazy to do any rewriting.
All right, our final question. What's your name?
I was just wondering if you could give us your opinion on the shutting down of the original EU, now that's Star Wars Legends, and it's a basic reboot because Heir of the Empire really helped kick that off back in the 90s. I was in high school when that came out, and the EU for me was Star Wars going on because movies, what movies come out first, so recent it was basically the comic books, the novels, all that stuff. And then it was one day it was just all wiped away. So when you talk about that.
I don't know what their thinking was at Lucasfilm. My take is they got together and said, we're going to make new movies, new TV shows, everybody get off the stage while we decide what we're going to do. And then after we've got spots where we will pull you back in. They've done that with Thrawn, the Dathomar Witches, various bits of the expanded universe or legends there. Also bear in mind, by calling it Legends, they haven't exactly wiped it out. They've turned it into Robin Hood, King Arthur, Bologna, which means that if they want to bring somebody in, they can do it with a minimum of embarrassment. In the real world, if somebody tomorrow finds a letter from Prince John to the Sheriff of Nottingham saying, I've had it with this Robin Hood guy, get rid of him, then suddenly Robin Hood's no longer a legend, it's part of history. And you can do that anytime with another character in Star Wars. You want to bring Corran back. We kind of teased at that in, was it Andor? The child was named Corran in the credits.
Yeah.
So they can bring anybody back. Oh, I guess that was part of history. We thought it was just a story. And it will, you can do that. Plus the fact, by calling them legends, they can still sell them and make money. So I don't think there was anything necessarily venal. It's just we don't know what we're doing. We can't let ourselves be boxed in. We can't go through everything right now and decide what we want and what we don't want. So everybody clear the stage and let's spend some time thinking about this, working out what we're going to do, etc. So and bear in mind, we always knew writing Star Wars that George could change things at a moment's notice, and that's fine. We got to play in his sandbox. If he drives his monster truck through it, that's part of the risk we take.
Even back then, I believe even back in the day, Lucas always said the three things he considers canon of the films, the novelization of the films, and the radio drama adaptations. If you ever listen to those, I urge you to check them out. They're fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And as far as the Extended Universe, I mean, as a comics fan, we've gone through this several times, and I'm at the point where I tell everybody, continuity and canon is what you have in your head canon, and it's in your heart. And those stories matter for you just because you feel like those own the rights have discontinued or whatever. It doesn't take away from your enjoyment. That's right. And don't let that bug get in your head.
I'm sure the comics don't like rebooting every 10 or 20 years, but they have to because everything's gotten too crowded.
Yes, it's just that's whack about it. The main thing is, if you liked it back then, keep liking it the way you did now. And know most importantly, know you're not alone.
Kathleen Kennedy is not going to come to your house and take your books away.
I'll get to that. Anything else before we go? Any other things on the horizon?
I've got a table over as you walk
Around
in,
the corner?
around the corner, yeah, at the far end. So if you got any other questions, comments, come by, say hi, ask questions. I'm there till they throw us out. What time? At 5, I think. So a couple of hours. Just come by. If you got other books to be signed, bring them along. I got ink.
And you have books to sell too, right?
5 of them.
Yeah.
We bought 195, but we're about 5.
Okay.
United's baggage handlers were much happier with this.
CollectiveCon 2024. This was Timothy Zahn, and that was our time.
So my first question is, how do you pronounce his full name properly? Thrawn's.
Mithra Neuro Odo.
Oh.
Mithra Neuro Odo. It's just like it's spelled.
Yeah, with the apostrophes and everything. Yeah. Now, the second one that I had, one of my favorite books of the Thrawn, the newer ones, was Alliances, when we got to see the different timelines between Anakin and then Vader. Mm-hmm. And I've never, ever seen it or even talked about how Vader refers to his past life as Anakin. And when you started referring to it as the Jedi, I mean, I'll be honest, I get goosebumps thinking about it. Just hearing him saying, like, I was here as the Jedi, or the Jedi did this, or was that something that you decided to do? Like, did they tell you can't refer to him as Anakin, or like, how did that come about?
Story group told me that I could. Vader does not consider that part of his own life.
Right.
And together we came up with the references to the Jedi, who's somebody different, which I think adds a nice addition to the title "Return of the Jedi."
True. Right. And because I remember when I was watching Kenobi, and it's like, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. So I was almost kind of waiting to him saying, you didn't kill the Jedi, I did, but he never said it. Like,
it would have been nice, but they don't necessarily listen to us often.
Fair enough.
But that was this is how he thinks of it. Okay, how about we do this?
Right. Okay. All right, thank you so much.
I liked that. It added the depth to Vader's character.
And it made it so that it wasn't like he was... It wasn't like, because everyone thought like Anakin was buried deep down inside of him. Mm-hmm. It was a disassociated personality in a way. Like he separated, he broke that part off of him, and he had to think about it as it was somebody else. That wasn't me. That was the Jedi. Like a generic thing. So I just wanted to touch on that because I thought it was fantastic.
Myself, disassociated. That was never me.
Right. Awesome.
I won't question why I got his memories, but it wasn't me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and we got on. So I appreciate it.